Creating and editing your text may rightly be considered a central aspect of maintaining your website, and Tangora makes text editing an intuitive process. When you come to a page in Tangora Manager, what you see on the page looks very much the same as it looks when it's published on your site. You just have to click there where you want to edit and take it from there. Nevertheless, there are a few hints that will help you. And so in this video, I'll show you how to add text to your pages, how to edit this text, including changing the look of your text. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you want to add some text in Tangora, and that's because you'll be using existing design templates and typographies to your advantage. This also means that there's certain more fundamental changes to a page that will take place elsewhere in the system. So let's get started. First, I'm going to discuss what your starting point is. That is to say, what you get on the page when you first create it. And then we're going to get into some basic text editing. So I have a brand new page up on my screen, which I've just created. What I see here is a bunch of dummy text and not much else. By dummy text, by the way, I just mean the gibberish text that you'll need to replace with your real text. Now, what you'll see when you create a page in your own solution may vary quite a bit. And this is because your default page layout may have dummy content, or indeed a lack hereof, in varying configurations. In fact, just to make this point clear, I want to show you just quickly on screen what I get when I create a page in another site in another solution. Now, the difference here is that there are placeholders for all sorts of dummy content, for images, intro text, etc., displayed in two columns. These templates that control the default content of a brand new page, you'll be interested to know, are controlled via page layouts. And again, depending on your setup, you'll be able to rely on the default layout, choose among varying options according to your need, or even create your own page layouts with our easy-to-use layout tool, Visual Designer. But now, with that background information in place, I'm going to return to our more humble page example and get back to the current topic, which is editing text on a page. Right, so if I want to edit my text, I just have to move my mouse over a text and then start typing. I could also double-click a word to select it, or triple-click to select a whole paragraph. And then I have some options to format my text, to make my text bold, italic, underline, or all three. I could also change the color of my text, and I could adjust this color scheme or switch up color schemes under the Design and Layout area in Tangora Manager. I could also highlight my text, or I can make bullet points with or without numbers, and I could justify my text left, center, and right. So that's pretty much your standard arsenal of text editing tools. So far so good, but you'll also need to be able to save your work. So we'll take a look at that now before we continue our overview of page editing options, specifically how you create links and tables. When I save my page, I could choose to either save a draft or just plain save, which will also publish the changes. If I save as a draft, we'll notice that when I right-click on my page, that I have an option to see a preview of my page with Show Draft. But if I save outright, I only have the View Page in Browser option, which shows me how the page looks here and now. If I've been undertaking some text changes and then change my mind, maybe I find out that I was in the wrong place or something, then I can revert to the last published version of my page with the Recreate Most Recently Published button. Now I want to show you a bit about creating links and tables with the icons up here at the top. There's also a button for adding images, but I'll save that topic for later. So let's say we want to create a link. I just have to select a text that I want to link somewhere, and then you hit the link icon. And here we have several options. I could either choose to link to a page in my solution, and as you can see, we have a handy page tree up here, so I can navigate through my hierarchy to find a page, or I could also search for a given page. Or you could just, for example, write in www.tangora.com or whatever you'd like. And you also have the option to create a mail link, or to create a link to a file that you have uploaded to your file archive. Tables are created by clicking on the Create Table button. And then I have a pop-up window here where I could configure my table. So for example, the amount of rows or columns and the column widths. I also have a selection at the bottom called Use Default Table Styles, where I could draw upon design templates to style my table. After I've created my table, we can see that I have a special right-click menu where I have a host of functions relating to my table. Alright, so now we've just rounded off some of the basics of text editing, including the important point of saving, but there is a fundamental aspect of page editing that I want to present to you now called sections. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is introduce you to the concept of a section, which allows you to repeat formatting while you're editing a page. Now you'll see when I hover over my text that there are borders around my text that become visible, and that there's actually a little title up here where it says normal and where there are a few more icons. This area confined by the dotted lines is a section, and if I click on the icon furthest out to the right here, called Show Placeholders, I can see that there's an icon which appears inside my section. This is actually called a placeholder, and it's a placeholder for writing a subheader, whose attributes, such as color and size, are configured in your design templates. If I click on the icon and start typing, you'll see that the text I write is blue and bold, according to the design layouts that are in use. There are other possible placeholders, such as a placeholder for short text, and these will appear based on the section layout which is chosen. That is there where it says normal right now. By the way, some of these section layouts have a special functionality, such as giving you a way to make tabs or create a table of contents, for example. And now comes the repeating part. The other icons up here next to the chosen section layout are for creating new sections, copying sections, as well as deleting sections. So take a look at what happens when I create a new section. I have the opportunity to make use of the pre-formatted subhead placeholder in addition to my body text, whose size is also dictated, by the way, by your design templates. And this will help you create a consistent look and feel as you add content to your site. The dotted lines that mark the section are, in most solutions, hidden by default, but I could also get an overview of how many sections are in use by hitting the little button up here called Show Text Borders. And finally, I want to mention that you can change the order of your sections by using the arrows that appear when you have 2 or more consecutive sections. Okay, so we've just gone through sections and placeholders. I have just a couple more topics here that I want to cover. You might be wondering how to control the size of your text. Part of the answer is that it is controlled in your site design, but you also have the ability to create your own typographies, which we could use to control not only the text size, but also a host of other properties. Finally, we'll take a look under the hood and see how you could get into a page's underlying HTML should the need arise. Well, okay, say you want to create a headline here up the top, which is actually larger than your subheader. Here, I'm going to show you that you could use typographies for that purpose. First, I'm going to create a new section, and I'll type in some text that I want to have as my headline, and then I'll move this section to the top of my page, and then I'm going to click on my text, and now I want to point out that you have the option up here to apply a typography. There may be a whole range of existing typographies in your solution, and you could also create your own under Design Layout. So I could select, for example, Page Header here, and we could see what happens. Finally, I just want to show you that you have the ability to adjust the HTML that is produced in the background as you're editing text. Now, this is probably a maneuver which will be reserved for the advanced user, but it's a great feature that gives a maximum flexibility should the occasion arise. Anyway, to get into the HTML version of a given section, you just need to hit the Switch Between HTML WYSIWYG button. WYSIWYG is a standard acronym for What You See is What You Get, and that describes the tools that we've been using so far. And so then we can see what Tangora does for us in the background. It generates all this HTML, and if I wanted to, I could just hack off the HTML checkbox down here if I wanted to display the HTML version whenever I came in to edit a section. Luckily, in most cases, we could just let Tangora do its work in the background. I do also have a button here called Remove Codes, so if, for example, I wanted to just remove a link without wrestling with the HTML, then I could just select my link and remove codes, and then it's gone. Okay, so we've just created a page with some nice text formatting and learned pretty much everything that we need to know about editing text on our pages. To come full circle as far as page editing goes, you'll also want to come up to speed with adding images to your pages. And then, to make more fundamental changes that may apply to several pages at a time, you'll do well to learn about layouts as well as color schemes and typographies. Any way you slice it, you'll find that Tangora gives you total control over formatting your text. Thank you for watching.